Hey everyone, Devoured here, and I know it's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I'm gonna get back into it. I had to take a break for a little while on making these videos because it just kind of takes a lot out of me, and I'm trying to explain it in a way that is articulate and concise and coherent and understandable, right? So I also had to play through the game a little bit more so that I could make sure that I fully understood how some of these things work. Um, and now that I have felt that I've done that enough, I'm back and I'm ready to kind of explain the Smithy to you guys. So this time around, we'll be talking about the Smithy. Um, the Smithy is probably, in my opinion, the most important feature or mechanic in this game, simply because you come to a point where your items that you get from drops or from chests just aren't enough, right? And the main reason for that is because the things that you get are randomized. So because they're randomized, they don't really fit any one kind of build or any build for that matter, just because it's all RNG and it's all randomized, and you don't get to pick what you have on a weapon as you pick it up as it's dropped. So when it's dropped, that's just what you get, right? But the Smithy allows us to change that. So in the Smithy, you have what, about 7 different options here. Note that Identify is only available in Rifts. I believe if you go to the world map and use the Smithy, Identify is not there. So make sure that you're in the Rifts if you want to identify. But I won't. I'll probably be going over all these, except like Dismantle, because that's pretty self-explanatory. Get rid of the junk items that you don't need and get materials back. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. There's not much to talk about. But the rest of this stuff is like pretty important, and it just kind of needs to be out there. And I'll try to keep it quick. I'll try to keep it concise. I know I blab a lot, and I kind of probably over explain a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna just try to keep it as short and sweet to the point as I can. So yeah, with that being said, here we go. So first up is upgrade special effect. This allows you to pick a weapon or a piece of armor and go to one of the equipment effects on that piece of armor or that weapon and upgrade it. So for instance, if I wanted to upgrade my Holy Break damage taken, I would select it and then I would go all the way over until it says cannot be upgraded further. This is the maximum amount or that I can upgrade it. I can't go any higher than this. And provided that I have the materials required, I can just, upgrade it, and then there it is. Now, at first glance, or rather the first time you ever use this, this is good if you have weapons and armor that have these random effects on it. So whatever is on there, you're kind of not to the point yet where you're swapping out equipment effects for ones that you actually want, or you're not fusing weapons so that you have certain skills that require you to have enough evocation affinity or ultima affinity. Like maybe you're not there yet. Just at first glance, you would do this just to be able to upgrade it and get more out of the random pieces of armor that you've already picked up. But after that, after you've gotten used to that, you're gonna use this, right? Change special effect. Um, so you're kind of gonna do these in order depending upon your power level. When you first start, you're probably just going to be like using this and using upgrade the special effect, and that'll be fine for a while. But after a little while, you'll start to go into like fusion and stuff, and there'll be actual things like like this four down here. This ability that requires you to have tier 4 and Ultima Affinity, right? Afflicted enemy physical damage dealt, right? You're going to start fusing things like those, skills like those, onto your weapons. So then adding just changing the special effect normally like this is it's going to be something that you stop doing. But before you get to that point, this is what you'll be doing. So you'll just do this, and then you'll pick the weapon or the piece of armor that you want to change an effect on. And let's say I don't want this on here because it doesn't make any sense. So then you get this entire master list of stuff, right? And I mean, there's just all this stuff. You can slow the video down if you need to be able to see all this stuff because there's just a lot of it, right? And you go through and you decide what it is that you need to have on this particular weapon or this particular piece of armor in order to make a build. And this build this will be the start of you actually building on pieces of armor and on weapons. This will be the start of that. So you have to have the idea in your head based upon your job and based upon the kind of playstyle that you use. What do I want my stuff to do? This is the preliminary portion of building your kit and choosing exactly what you want to complement your kit, right? So let's say for this, I wanted like agility, right? And so I would switch it with agility. And so their agility is. And so then after I have done that, I would go to upgrade special effect and I would go down to agility. And it can't be upgraded any further because that's the maximum amount. That maximum amount probably has a lot to do with the weapon level itself. And considering that we're already like near the top level, the max level, it can't go any higher than this. So you have an extra 7 agility on your stuff, right? But there are also ones like this that require a prerequisite amount of evocation affinity or ultima affinity that are also like this. They'll give you agility, and it's usually a lot more. These, just by default, are better than just setting it yourself because these will always give you more, no matter what. I mean, out of everything that you can do here, you can get in a form like this or a form like this, whether it's evocation or ultima affinity. So long as you have the prerequisite amount of affinity needed to access that tier, so whether it's 1 or 4 or 10 or whatever, so long as you have the prerequisite amount, you can access this. If you don't, then it'll still be on there, but you won't gain access to it. So always make sure that you have the prerequisite amount of evocation affinity or ultima affinity, so that you can so that you can have use of this particular equipment effect, right? So that's pretty much the long and the short of it when it comes to these two options, right? You can change it yourself. Initially, you can just change it yourself, and then you can upgrade it. And then eventually you'll get to a point to where you need a little bit more, right? You need a little bit more power. So then you go into these, right? You upgrade your job affinity. So each piece of equipment, no matter what it is, has job affinity on it by default. And sometimes you just need you're building your build and you're right there and you got all your armor on and you're right at 398. Right, just you need 2% more to get that 400% affinity bonus for that specific job, but you're just short. That's what this is for. You go in to whatever it is and you're able to upgrade it. To upgrade it, you need crests. The easiest way to get crests is to play with the job that you need crests for. If you need sage crests, play as a sage. If you need ninja crests, play as a ninja. If you need cyclic warrior crests, play as a cyclic warrior and defeat enemies. That is the easiest way to get crests. Sometimes you can get them out of chests, sometimes you can get them as drops, but for the most part, that's the primary way that you want to do it. You want to play as the class that you need the crest for, right? So once you have the crest that you need, you can build. And you can build up to a point. So right now I could go up about 20% without having to use anything other than these two crests. But if I go any bit over 20%, now I need rat tails. Rat tails go for like 200 dragon treasure in the exchange shop. And okay, if you found a good mission that you can grind out for dragon treasure and you just want to dump it on rat tails, that's fine. But you'll notice the further you go up, so that's the max right there. That's about 80%. Yeah, that's 80%. You're gonna need quite a few rat tails. And rat tails are not cheap. So like I said, if it's 200 a pop and you need 177, do the math on that, and you're looking at like quite a bit of dragon treasure, right? So you better be pretty good at the mission that you're doing, and you better have a lot of debuffs on, so that you get the most dragon treasure you possibly can, because it takes quite a bit to get to just buy 177 rat tails. Now, if you've done all your missions that you're supposed to do and you've gotten your first clear completion rewards, then you should have, provided you haven't spent them on anything, you should have a decent amount of rat tails. And you can kind of just pick and choose what it is that you want in order to, what pieces of equipment and things that you want in order to make your build. But at a point, if you continue to do it like this, you're going to need rat tails. And after a while, just like animal crystals, you will have to grind for dragon treasure in order to get these things. So yeah, so before we're done with that part of it, you'll notice that there's some purple numbers over here. These purple numbers are the amount of mannequin material that you, well, the amount of, so the plus 243 is the amount of Lancer crests that I don't have, that the mannequin material will cover for me at a cost. Same idea with the rat tails. I only have 4 rat tails, so the 173 is the amount of rat tails that the mannequin material will cover for me. The thing is that for every piece, every material that is required that the mannequin material has to cover, it costs a certain amount of mannequin material, right? So if we go all the way back down here, okay, I need 5 rat tails. So that tells you right there that for every rat tail, you need 2,000 mannequin material. And then if you go a little further, and that just goes up, like look at the bottom right, like you go from 10 to 28 to 48 to 70 to 94 to what, like, and I mean, it just kind of goes. And then you start, okay, well, I don't have enough Lancer crests. I think Lancer crests or crests in general are like anywhere from like 200 to 300 per crest, something like that. And so then, you know, the more you go, the more you need. That's an obscene amount of mannequin material. Is it possible to get? Sure, but it would take a while. And you get that stuff through doing things, doing stuff in Different Future, pretty much. Different Future kind of introduced that, and by going through the story of Different Future and the side quests and all that stuff that has to do with Different Future, you begin to get mannequin material. You can also obtain little bits of it in the rifts. But you don't get that much just by doing a few missions, right? This is another material that you have to grind for. But if you don't want to go out of your way to grind for dragon treasure and pay the prerequisite 200 per rat tail, then, and you have a little extra mannequin material, then that can help supplement it, and to where you don't have to go and, you know, constantly grind for dragon treasure. But one way or another, if you're not grinding for dragon treasure, you're grinding for mannequin material. If you're trying to build your stuff up in this way, right? Okay, that was a little bit long-winded, but that's kind of how it works. So that's how you increase your job affinity, and then upgrade job level. Like, it's cool, you can do it. If you're already here at 5, and you can only need 5 levels, as you can see. I need 6, so animal crystals are 200 mannequin material per crystal. So if I wanted to go up here I would need 30 crystals, and that's 6,000 mannequin material. So like technically, I can do this. I can make up the difference for the 30 animal crystals that I don't have with mannequin material. So it's just a substitute. It's a resource that's used as a substitute for for materials that you don't have, basically, right? And you can earn it, but you earn it slowly, like you earn everything else slowly. You earn it gradually as you do rifts or do things in different future or whatever, right? Mannequin material does not have anything to do with dragon treasure. They are two separate, I guess you could say, currencies. Two separate types of materials, and they don't coexist. Well, they coexist with one another, but they don't like intersect with one another at all. They're two independent things of each other. So you can increase your equipment level if you need to, just to get that last little bit of percentage out. 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3 doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you got to remember, if you're doing a massive amount of damage or if you have a massive amount of defense, even 1% can make a difference in how much more you're getting out of that. So if you want to do this, you can do this. I don't see any reason not to do this, but it's not like if you're at 492 or 495 or 496, like it's not make or break, right? It's not, you can, but you don't have to, basically. But then you'll come to a point where even this isn't enough. Even doing all this isn't enough. Like you'll do it and you just kind of hit a plateau at a certain point, and you're not getting really any more powerful, right? That's where fusion comes into place. Now, fusion is super important. It's not super technical or anything, but it just takes a little getting used to. It's a system that you definitely have to get used to. But once you got it, and you're doing it all the time. I'm telling you, once you get fusion down, you're like not really using any of these. You might use the upgrade job affinity. That's the only one that I really use. And you might use this to upgrade the effects of the new effects that you got from fusion, but you're not changing special effects anymore, and you're not upgrading your level equipment anymore, because you have the piece of equipment that you want. You just want different effects on it, and through fusion you get exactly what you want. So let's go into fusion and let's try to break it down here. At first you're going to have a base selection, right? This is the weapon that, if I'm correct, let me see. Yeah, this is the weapon that you want to fuse stuff onto. Okay, so the base selection weapon is the weapon that you want to have something be fused onto. This piece of equipment is what you will retain after fusion is over. Okay, the material selection is the piece of equipment that you're going to get rid of, that you're going to take from and put on the base selection. And once you have finished, this piece of equipment will be gone. Okay, so let's say I wanted to fuse this with Outsider. It gives you it starts at the top of your equipment effects, and it gives you a list of at this point, it gives you a list of all the orange equipment effects that can be equipped on this particular weapon. Now, this particular weapon has 3 slots that can equip orange effects, so you have to pick from these 6 which 3 you want on the weapon. So, for instance, if we wanted magic regen, and if we wanted eagle eye, and if we wanted conductor, we would put all those on there. Then it takes the 6 regular equipment effects, and considering since you only have 3 spaces on here for regular equipment effects, you have to pick 3 from the 6 equipment effects between Outsider and the other weapon that's being fused here. So we would pick something like physical break damage taken, and then non-elemental break damage taken, and then like magic damage dealt. And so now we have our equipment effects. Then we go down to job affinity. It uses, because this is a dual affinity weapon, or they're both dual affinity weapons. Now there's 4 affinities to choose from. Now The reason that these percentages are blue is because our base selection's affinities, its percentage, was higher than the weapon that we're fusing, the material selection. So because the base was higher than the material, then if we want to transfer over an affinity that was on the material selection to the base, it's got to share the base's percentage. In this case, the base's percentage is 268. So any material that we fuse with this, its affinity has to be 268 because that's what the base is. And so if we wanted to pick this, we would need, for instance, Desperado, which is a subclass of Berserker. We would have to have the prerequisite amount of Berserker crests, and we would have to have the prerequisite amount of Rat Tails. Now notice the purple number over there as well. You can still have this mannequin material to substitute what you don't have, no matter what it is. But anyways, you would have this 4, and you would pick the ones that you wanted. If you're not going to change it, then it's not going to cost you anything. It's just there, right? You haven't moved it, you haven't touched it, it's just there. If you have the prerequisite stuff, then you will confirm that you want to fuse. It will fuse. The material selection piece of equipment will be lost. It will be gone, and you have a brand new fused weapon. I don't have enough rat tails, so I can't do this, but that's pretty much what you do. And you would do that with your weapons, with your armor, and even with your accessories. It works the same way all the way down the line, and you pretty much just go back and forth, and you just find the piece of equipment that you want, find another piece of equipment that has something that you want the base selection equipment to be on, fuse them together, make sure you have the prerequisite materials, whatever it might be, and then fuse it, and now your base selection material is more powerful than it was before fusion. After fusion, it should always come out to be more powerful after fusion. And so that's why for me, like, I have a full set of relic armor, so this kind of bluish, dark indigo colored stuff, artifacts rather than just the regular, and I have a bunch of these regular artifacts. I don't have these regular artifacts because I want to equip them. I have them because they have or might have certain equipment effects on them that I might need for other equipment for other builds down the line, right? So for my thing, I don't have anything that is not red or is not purple. Like I just don't. I don't have anything that's not red or not purple, because in my opinion, it doesn't matter if there's no point in having anything that's less than an artifact at the stage of the game that I'm in. I need to have the best possible rolls that I can get for the best possible equipment that will drop for me. I need those 5s and those 4s and those 3s on my equipment effects, because the higher that number is, the more potent the percentage or the effect will be. Whether that's taking off a whole lot more damage, or adding on a whole lot more damage, or adding a whole lot more to a specific attribute like strength or agility, you want to be able to have the best rolls that you can have, and the best rolls are on artifacts. 2-star, 3-star, 5 stars are irrelevant at this point. So in my opinion, I wouldn't go for anything like that, but you're your own player, you can do what you want. But the way I see it, artifacts is the way to go. Like, you should in my opinion, you should have nothing but artifacts, whether it's a red one or a purple one. Like, you should have nothing but artifacts, because these are going to give you the best rolls. And you're going to be able to choose from the best rolls when you go into fusion from artifacts, right? So you do all this for all your pieces of equipment, for all your weapons, and for all the accessories that you're going to put on, and you just put all that stuff together. And when you do that, you end up with something like this, right? Like, I've got a full set of relic armor. No, it doesn't match. I wish there was transmog in this game, but there's not. and it all kind of just does what I want it to do. If you look at my affinities up there, I've got 4 affinities that are at least 400. I've got 2 affinities that are at least 600. My job level is maxed out where it can be right now. I've got my accessory where I want it to be, and I have it doing what I want it to do. I have fused the job affinities onto these pieces of equipment that I want, and I have the prerequisite amount of evocation and ultimate affinity so that I can use all the things, all the equipment effects that are on these pieces of equipment. Now, that's how fusion works. It should look like this when you're done. Something or other like this. This is just what I have. And don't get me wrong, I'm not done, right? Like, I'm not done with this build. There's still a bunch of different things that I could do to this build to make it even more powerful. I'm not at max level yet, which I believe is 300 for jobs. I'm not at max level yet, so that just tells you that there's more power to eke out of this. There's more potential to be drawn from this. But to start, or at least going forward and going through with it, this is kind of what you end up with after a little while. You're going to want this because the stuff that's in different future is just another. The difficulty spike is just like the difficulty spike from Bahamut to Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh to Lufinia difficulty is just like that. It's another big bump, and so you need to have these kinds of things on here. You need to have a full set of relic armor on you. You need to make sure that all your affinities on that armor are what you want them to be. You want to make sure all your affinities percentages up top there are the percentages that you want them to be. I mean, you want to have an idea. You want to have a good idea of what it is that you want to do, and you want to just go down that road as far as you can. Now, another reason that you might want, or that you do want, relic armor is because of primary blessings, or summon blessings, I should say. If you look at the bottom right, you'll notice that my primary blessing is Bahamut. And Bahamut gives me kind of another passive perk. Well, it's not really a passive perk, it's more of an active perk because I have to do something. Every time I successfully soul shield, I block successfully with a soul shield. It will increase my strength, agility, stamina, intellect, spirit, and luck. And this effect can stack up to 20 times. Now, the percentage there is it's based upon when it activates, right? It doesn't tell you when it activates, but basically you can think of it like this. If let's see here. So let me start over. This kind of thing can be confusing, and I find that explanations are often just as confusing. So let's kind of try to do it like this. If you look here, you'll notice that I have 4 different summons here, right? But Bahamut is equipped as my primary blessing. But the only reason that I have these is because one of these, some of these are not, some of these are not Bahamut, right? Like some of these, like this one, for instance, its summons blessing is Ramu, right? So because of that, the question is then asked, well, because I have all of these guys on here through the different pieces of equipment that I have equipped, do I get anything for Odin, Alexander, or Ramu if Bahamut is equipped as my primary blessing? Yes. It doesn't matter what the primary blessing is on your build. That's just to get the described benefit, like the paralysis debuff for Ramu, or the stackable attribute increase for Bahamut, right? Simply equipping gear with Ramu or equipping gear with Bahamut will give you a stat boost. Now, if you have mixed gear, like I have here, you're getting a boost from Ramu, you're getting a boost from Odin, you're getting a boost from Alexander. you're getting whatever the boost is for whoever is on these pieces of equipment. And the boost that you'll get is equivalent to whatever the percentage of that summon that you have on overall. So for Odin, you'll get 80% of whatever the stat boost is for Odin. You'll get 26% of the stat boost of whatever Alexander does for you. You'll get 77, et cetera, just as it goes, right? It's kind of like an invisible passive on the gear. You might not see it, but equipping a headpiece with Ramu on, for instance, will give you +8 in intelligence, +20 in HP, +1 to strength, etc. Now, it's not necessarily these numbers. These numbers are just put here for illustration, but you'll get something, right? You'll get some kind of invisible stat boost that you can't necessarily see, right? They actually do show up on the stats on the far right list, like they will show up over there. But it's not broken down in what you're getting from the summon. So it's kind of mixed in with the gear's affinities and its passives as the new stat, just like how the affinities and passives are combined. So all this stuff is just kind of combined, so you can't see exactly the total, right? The total of what this particular thing does, or what the stat boost is from having an Alexander on there or an Odin. Like, you can't see it for what it is. It's kind of all kind of mixed in there. So you just have to take the game's word for it that you're getting a stat boost, right? Now, you can also boost the stat gains by increasing the summon's blessing percentage on your gear. If at 50% you get X intellect with Ramu, then that means at 100% you'll get double, right? This is done by fusing a piece of the same type of gear with the same blessing at a higher percentage onto the gear, just like we did for the affinities. It's same idea. It's just for the summon blessings this time. For example, if you fuse a Rama 120% onto a Rama 80%, it will give you 120% of Ramu on your gear for the blessing. So you don't have to spend resources moving your old gear's passives and affinities to the new gear. Simply choose to move the new piece to the old piece, but change nothing. Just keep all your effects that you have on there. You'll see in the bottom left what your new blessing percentage will be. It'll always be the higher of the two. And by the way, 2-piece sets can be applied to a single piece. Like, say, a Plunderer's Hood with 220% can be applied to a helmet. And even though it's a single piece, you'll get the full 220. So you can save those 2-piece gears with blessings, right? So that's kind of how that works. And like I said, it's just another passive thing, right? It's just another passive stat that happens, and you can just pile it on top, right? You just pile it on top of what you already have going on, and it just makes you stronger. And so that kind of speaks to the difficulty of Lufinia. The idea that you have to constantly stack stuff on top of stuff in order to remain a viable threat tells you how hard it is. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And understanding these base systems and then the addendums that come after is very important, so that you can maximize the amount of strength that you have with your specific build, right? But it all starts with the smithy, right? With doing this stuff here. And fusion is really the main thing that you're going to be using in smithy, because it's so versatile, and you want to make your equipment your own. You want to make sure that you have the exact equipment effects on there that you want, the exact affinity on there that you want, the exact summons blessing on there that you want, and combine all these different pieces of equipment with one another to create a full set of gear that does exactly what you want it to do, how you want it to be done, right? So yeah, with that being said, that's about it. I can't really speak too much more on anything else. But that's the Smithy in a nutshell. It can be kind of complicated, but once you get it down, especially fusion, once you get it down, it is it is so awesome and it's so useful, and it just becomes a second nature thing to you. You and then you take the Smithy and you go and still do missions where you can get dragon treasure and where you can, and if you're in different future, where you can get mannequin material, and you just kind of put all that stuff together and you just keep fusing, you keep creating, you keep making what it is that you want to make, and you just get more powerful, right? And that's kind of the ultimate goal. I mean, you should be super powerful by the time you've gotten the Smithy and fusion specifically underneath your belt. It's a very versatile and diverse mechanic, and I love it. Right. So, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. I hope I didn't ramble on too long, and I hope you understood what it was that I was saying. I tried to keep it short and sweet, and yeah, we'll be back in a little while to do whatever comes next because there's still a couple of things that we might need to talk about. But I really just wanted to get the Smithy out of the way because the Smithy is, like I said, it's probably the most important mechanic in the game. If you don't understand how to use the Smithy correctly, especially at the end game, you're not gonna make it very far. Because things just get harder and harder, and you know that because there are certain, in order to do certain things and to upgrade certain things, you need to have dragon treasure. And if you need a lot of it, that means that you have to purposefully make it difficult through the dragon trials in order to get the prerequisite amount of dragon treasure that you need, right? So yeah, there's quite a bit. With that being said, I'm devoured. I will see you next time. Later on.